Call to order the September 21st, 2021 Board of Education regular meeting at 7 p.m. Sarah, good evening to you, and can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Berardi?
Here.
Mrs. Deck? Here. Mrs. Lala? Here. Mr. Mazzano?
Here.
Mr. Monson? Here. Mr. Palazzo?
I'm here.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Here. Thank you. A quorum has been established. Can everybody please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
The mission of George School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence and enrichment.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, celebration of success. Does anybody have any success they'd like to celebrate now? Goes for anybody in the audience too.
So we're excited. We had a successful start to the school year over at Giles, and we're excited to see everyone back in the building. So that's something to celebrate. We're also very excited that we secured a bus company for athletics this year due to the national bus shortage, and that we do not have busing. It was very difficult to get a bus service to drive for us. So I would like to thank Leiden High School, Dr. Pollack, and Mr. Grimm, and Ms. Guzik for all their work to be able to secure Leiden High School as our transportation service, bus service for the athletics. And then finally, our fall assessments. We finally, after all the assessments that we've done, we've completed them. And now it's time to do a data dive, get some data, and begin intervention. So we're excited for that.
That's great. Thank you, Bob. Anyone else?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
At Lee, we had grade level assemblies to kick off our PBIS High initiative. That was held the week of August 30th. And we had a chance to have a little fun while also reinforcing our school-wide expectations. Be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. Our students have been, and staff have been hard at work, making for a strong start to the school year. I'd like to give a shout out to Ms. Cotton Kindergarten, who just had a Donors Choose project funded. That was titled Meeting Social, Emotional, and Fine Motor Needs of Students. So thank you to all who had donated to that project on Donors Choose. And I'd also like to share an update on our sensory path. And the purpose of the Lee School Sensory Path, which is titled Matthews Tiger Trail, is to provide a whole school or Tier 1 strategy for helping students to remain regulated across their school day. The path features a series of movement and calming activities, jumping, bouncing, bending, pushing, breathing, and takes about a minute or so to complete. So we've had staff who will be able to take either the whole class, small groups, or individual students to that path. And it'll feature a hand sanitizing station for students to use before entering the area. And this path was dedicated to a late Lee student, Matthew Prisalik. And we really wanted to honor his love of life and learning, and was inspired by him. Just want to recognize the staff that were involved in its creation: Denise Muscarello, Rachel Kalkers, Kelly Trump, Diane Wigner, Karen Maloney, Nick Barkin, Brittany Tien, and Julie Durantz.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, there were several things going on in special education. A lot of them are private and confidential in nature, but I mean, we have an amazing staff doing amazing things. A couple of things that I know that the board would be very excited. Michelle Kuznick and I just had an articulation meeting about aligning, kind of seeing if we can step up and help our students be successful at Ridgewood. Ridgewood High School just became a unified champion school through Special Olympics. I come from a school that was a national unified champion school, and there's a lot of things that Bob and I and Sean have kind of talked about, bringing some of those programmings to District 80. And we're even having a trip going there where Stephanie Mack, our lead teacher at Giles, is going to be taking a group of students, both students with and without exceptionalities, to Ridgewood High School for a kickball game, a unified kickball game. And it goes into an idea that we're looking at in the future. And then also our preschool, blended preschool program, which is for students with and without exceptionalities that are in the same school, has really seen an increase in screening. So the word's getting out. Please tell your neighbors, you know, if you have concerns about your little one's development, please send them our way, and we would love to kind of be able to either answer some questions or get students the support they need in order to be successful. So there's a lot of things going on. So.
Okay, David, thank you much. Anyone else? All right, much appreciated. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Pat Rossi, who is going to present a little bit on the completion of the work that took place over the summer.
Okay, so you know, we did a lot this summer, a lot more than the past summers. There were some challenges, but we got through it pretty well. We got through the assignments in the front office area at both schools. We were able to get that all cleared out and then rebuild the lounge area, the front office, move all the old furniture out at Giles, move all the new furniture in. So we were able to get all that done. We concentrated a lot on the exterior of both buildings. We redid the asphalt as far as seal coating and crack filling and lining. We were able to clean the accessible areas of the limestone. We were able to coordinate the installation of the signs, so we spent a lot of time outside the building. We got done pretty much everything we wanted to get done inside the building. We didn't quite finish where we were in the steam rooms. We had to kind of triage that, kind of double back to get some of the other areas that were needed to get school rolling, get it going. So we got that going. We were taking chunks off of our life safety list, you know, little by little, trying to get that knocked out. I know that I've talked with the architect, and he's continually updating the permit set for those, so that we can continue on those larger projects and get those knocked out. Everything else pretty much wrapped. I'm proud to say, after a long and arduous battle, that the preschool bathrooms are done and they're being used. Thanks to Lou, who came in, and you know, there's a lot of challenges with working with existing plumbing in the walls and trying to retrofit new fixtures with that. Everything was just, you know, and I'm sure Lou can tell you about the way plumbing codes change and where things line up. But with his help, we were able to get that done. So we got that done, opened up with the Park District. Was very happy to be able to be using that. Exterior repair, all those, the ramp at Giles that was falling apart, we had that refinished completely. We're going to wait till that seals and cures, and then we're going to apply one last coat of epoxy over it. Hopefully that will last for a long time. We were able to get a lot of the fence that was falling repaired, the sidewalks that in the back of Giles that were falling apart. We got that all repaired. We used some local contractors. We were able to be low bidder on that. We were able to use local contractors to get that done. Over the past few weeks, we did have another sinkhole on an inlet in the parking lot, similar to one that we had last year. It's on the opposite side. We got to it very quickly. You know, got the quotes in, got it repaired over the weekend, and it's back in use. So we got that done pretty well. So all in all, it was a challenging summer. You know, supply chain. You know, we're still missing some glass. Supply chain has kind of, you know, been spotty on a lot of different things. Our train project is a little bit delayed because a lot of the electronics that are going into that, we're having a hard time procuring those items. So those have been pushed back a little bit, but we're still on target. And for the most part, the guys did a great job getting things done. We moved tables and chairs and cabinets, and I know Bob. I'd like to thank Bob. He came in. It was a Saturday. He was there with his whole family, his wife, and they were the best. So we got a lot done over the summer, and you know, we took on a lot, and we accomplished a lot. And that, you know, when we want to keep moving ahead, we have to do that. So I think it was all in all a good summer. We got the things done that we needed to get done, and we're just moving on. So, do you have any questions? Or we have to answer any?
I do. Not more of a statement. Just to let everyone know, because I've been asked by multiple different groups, the STEM lab is moving along, and we're waiting on cabinets, right?
We're waiting on the tables and chairs are not here, they're in, we're waiting for the fixed furniture that goes along the walls. Until then though, we're finishing up the last of the mechanicals, and then the epoxy form is going in next.
We're in the home stretch, right?
Home stretch.
All right. God bless.
Like I said, we had to do a little triage, right?
Right, no.
What's important to get done, so we go back from that, to get some of the things done, and now we're back.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions by the board? I'll take a quick second. Pat, much appreciated from the board's end, right? One of the goals this board had was to put the right people in place and to prioritize the right way and to get things done. And that's clearly happening now with the people in the room. So, the reason things are not done, we understand why it's not done, because they're either not on the priority at the time, or parts are not here, or the right people that are in place now saying it's not the time to do it or to finish it right now. So we have full faith in you. We can't thank you enough, Bob, you and your family, everybody in the room that helps out. Everybody in this room has one goal, and we're getting to that goal. So thank you very much. Great job. I know we're working with the Morton Arboretum for next summer, try to do some landscaping on both campuses, so that's in play too for next year. So great job, Pat. Thank you much.
God bless you.
All right, the board's now going to conduct a public hearing regarding the Norwood School District 80 fiscal year 2022 budget. I'm going to call to order that hearing now. I'd like to call to order the September 21st, 2021 public hearing regarding Norwood School District 80 fiscal year 2022 budget. Sarah, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Berardi?
Here.
Mrs. Deck?
Here.
Mrs. Lala?
Here.
Mr. Mazzano?
Here.
Mr. Monson?
Here.
Mr. Palazzo?
Here.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Here.
Okay, Sarah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quorum's been established. The board will receive comments from the public regarding the proposed fiscal year 2022 Norwood School District 80 budget. Illinois law requires that a public hearing be held prior to the adoption of the district's budget. The public hearing gives interested individuals an opportunity to make public comments concerning the budget. A public hearing is not a dialogue or question and answer session between the board and the audience. It is a time when the public can present information and express opinions. The board's role is to listen intently to all comments presented by the public and then consider those comments when the board deliberates on the adoption of the budget. Do we have anybody that signed in? Can somebody check that? Or if there's any comments from the public, now's the time concerning next year's budget. Not right now, Craig. If we have any questions, our financial consultant, Dr. Craig Schilling, is in attendance. You can see him in the first row there to your left. Any questions pertaining to the budget? If the board can't answer them, Craig will be able to. There's nobody signed in. Any other comments? Okay, with that being said and not said, we're going to adjourn the public hearing. Moving on to our action item. Ask the board to consider approval of the agenda as presented or potentially modified. Any discussion on the board's end? With no discussion or questions, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda as now presented.
A motion.
Motion made by Renzo, seconded by somebody over there, Frank. Sarah, roll call.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Yes. Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. One second, please. Okay. I've already welcomed everybody, but I'll take the time to do it again. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Correspondence on the board's end. In our board book, and I'll share it in open right now, the IASB West Cook Division meeting. The notification has been sent out. The date on the meeting, you can find it in your board book, is set for October the 21st at 6 p.m. The location is at the Elmcrest Banquets in Elmwood Park. Sarah, unless something has changed, if any board members want to attend that, let Sarah know. She will sign us up so we can attend on the 21st. That's the only correspondence to report of this evening. Public participation outside of the hearing. Was there anything, Lou, on the sheet? Okay. FOIA request. Since our last meeting, the district has received one FOIA request, which I will read now. It came in from Steep Steel LLC, dated August the 28th, 2021, requesting copies of all active leases or licenses for cell towers, rooftop antennas, or other wireless installations on property owned or managed by Norwood School District, Illinois, along with 24 months of associated payment histories. As always, that FOIA request will then be put on our website so you can view it. And that's the only one we had since last meeting. Moving on to our administrative reports, I'm going to now turn it over to District 80's interim superintendent. To my right, Mr. Ralph Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Palazzo.
You're welcome.
Just a few things on my report this evening. Number one, we continue to monitor the changing guidance on the governor's executive orders on COVID-19 vaccinations, testing protocols, and exclusion for students and staff who are close contacts of a COVID-infected person or persons. The guidance is changing pretty rapidly on a regular basis, but our team is doing a great job staying on top of those changes and the necessary protocols for close contacts or those who have tested positive. Our nurses, our administrators are doing a great job each day with this additional work. As for staff who have not yet been vaccinated or who must agree to weekly testing, we are doing well in this area also. Our staff has been very compliant with the mandates. We have less than 10 individuals who regularly interact with our students and other staff who are either not vaccinated, which is their individual choice, and will need to comply with the required weekly testing requirement. I want to remind the board that this week is the week that all school personnel and volunteers who fit that definition for testing and or vaccination must either be vaccinated or agree to a weekly testing protocol. This week, our staff and volunteers who are not vaccinated must show test results that indicate they are free from COVID in order to return to work on Monday, September 27th. At this time, we do not anticipate the need to not let anyone into our buildings for non-compliance of this executive order. Number two, we have had an inquiry by a member of the community if we plan to start posting COVID-19 updates, our numbers, again on the district website, similar to what was done last year. Does the board have a preference about this one way or the other?
Say that again, Ralph. What the one person is requesting what?
That we share our COVID numbers similar to what we did last year on the district website. We have not yet started that again, and I'm wondering if the board has any objection to us doing that.
Can we discuss it closed?
I'm sorry?
Can we discuss it closed?
No.
Me personally, I don't have any initial objection to it, but I'd like to refresh my memory and go back and see what was posted, what kind of data was posted. Does anybody have that info right now?
Bob does.
Yes. So what we did, we posted for the district. We had staff and students. We released every week, every Friday, and the data was collected for a 14-day incubation period. So it always was updated every 14 days. But we documented COVID positive cases. We documented close contact with COVID positive. We also documented sick, but we're not tested yet, so we are awaiting results. And then we also reported sick, but tested negative. We documented those, and that was released every Friday in the weekly tracks for both Giles and Lee.
So when these were reported last year, Bob, and you were here, did you get any negative feedback from any parents or any staff based on that data being shared?
No, it's just making sure that we were just being transparent and letting them make their own decisions as a family, what they needed to do. Now, since last year, our guidance has changed, which the State Board of State Superintendent has now said that we have in-person learning taking place.
Yeah.
So, you know, we want to make sure we still communicate with everyone to let them know with the data. But again, it's a choice that they make. If they cannot, the only way to be remote is to be COVID positive or to be quarantined due to a COVID positive case.
So to put this data out, will it take you away from other jobs that you're doing right now, you or your staff in the building?
Well, we're collecting it anyway.
Collecting it anyway, so I'm okay with it. If anybody else has any comments or concerns?
I do. So now we're going into the flu season. So the similarities of the two illnesses, the COVID as well as the flu, would be interchangeable. So how would we be able to account for that? Or to just put a footnote that says, you know, someone that's sick could be flu, not COVID. How would we do that?
So anyone that is COVID positive has been diagnosed.
Right, that one's easy. It's the sick part where they're not positive, but they're sick.
Right, so what we do is we look for the signs and symptoms by the CDC and the IDPH, and if it's consistent with what they say, then we inform people that they're watched. They're like on a watch list.
Okay.
That we keep an eye on them and continue to monitor them. As a requirement, you cannot attend school if you have any of the symptoms for 24 hours. There's new guidance, and it's diarrhea and vomiting. It has to be 48 hours now before you can come back to school. Thank you.
I'm fine with it. I think that we need to keep transparency alive here. We're not putting names. Just
Correct.
putting numbers.
Not putting names.
Yeah, well, before I commit to anything moving forward, I just want to know, I want to ask some questions. So it seems like the board doesn't have any issues with it. Sounds great.
My next item is, just want to let you know that I continue to work with the admin team and the District Leadership Advisory Council through the development of a research-based, data-driven school improvement planning process. Dr. Raviola and Mr. Biedke are working with their building leadership teams on the development of the plan for their respective buildings. The model being implemented has 5 sections, and so far we have talked about 3 of the 5. I'm pleased that the staff has embraced this planning tool as well. We are using our DLAC meeting time to share information about each of the 5 components and to report out on the progress of the development of the components. Our plan is to bring each building's formal school improvement plan to you in March of 22 as a discussion item, and then in April of 22 as an action item. The next item, I'm going to make a general statement, and then I think Mr. Biedke is going to talk about this in his report. We are aware and are dealing with the TikTok Devious Lick Challenge. This is the social media event that encourages students to intentionally damage school property, film it, and then post it on TikTok. I want to reiterate in the strongest of terms that we will not tolerate any intentional damage to school property for any reason. If school property is damaged, we will enforce the maximum discipline consequences that we can, and we will require students and or their parents to make restitution for damages. This is the ugly side of social media. And as I said, Mr. Biedke will address what he has been dealing with in his report. We continue to have significant need for substitute teachers, substitute paras, and full-time paras in some of our classrooms. If anyone wishes to take on these challenges, please contact Mrs. Guzik or me as soon as possible. We are continuously looking for new ways to advertise these vacancies in places that perhaps we have not advertised before. I've been asked to consider by the administrative team increasing the pay for our substitutes. We're going to conduct a quick study of districts in the area and see what they're paying, and then see how we compare before we come back to you with any possible recommendations. I will just tell you that in my experience, increasing the pay doesn't necessarily increase the pool of participants who want to do these sub-jobs, but the district ends up paying more money for them. There are other things that we can do, and I've talked with Dr. Ravioli and Mr. Biedke about what some of those things are. And then last, I just want to let the board know how pleased I am and how proud I am of the administrative team, how well they've come together, how well they are working together to meet the needs of our students and staff. You will hear from each of them in a few minutes, and I hope that you are as impressed as I am with them and all that they're doing to move us forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if any board members have any questions.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay. So we'll go, I know, Bob, you're going to expand on that when we get to you. Dr. Ravioli, we'll go to you first on your building monthly report here at Lee. Yeah.
So the past couple of weeks, we've really been focusing on our beginning of the year assessments. In kindergarten, first grade, that includes the FastBridge early literacy and early math assessments. In our second through fourth grades, that's an oral reading fluency assessment through FastBridge. And then in second through fourth grade, there is the NWEA math assessment in reading and math. In addition to those beginning of the year diagnostic assessments, we also had our fourth graders taking the IAR state assessment. That was an assessment that was originally intended to be administered in the spring, but that was pushed back due to some flexibility through ISB for this particular school year. So those fourth graders actually were taking their third grade IAR assessment. In addition to that, we have access testing for our emerging bilingual students and also language screening for our incoming kindergartners who had indicated that there's another language spoken at home on the home language survey to then determine their placement for English language services. So we are hoping that all of our beginning of the year testing will be completed at the end of this week, with the exception of some of the kindergarten screenings for English language services. And in addition, we have been focusing on completing our safety drills throughout the month of September. September really is a great month to do that, not only because it's that first full month of school, but also because it's National Preparedness Month. So showing that we are taking steps to be prepared for any event that may come our way. We have completed one fire drill that was without the fire department to kind of get our first practice underway. We are planning another one with the fire department in attendance. We completed our lockdown drill and had 2 Norwood police officers walk through the building with us as we completed that. Staff and students really did a great job during that drill. It was decided that they followed all the instructions to a T, and we were really pleased with how they did. We had some great feedback from the Norwood Police Department on that. Our severe weather shelter-in-place drill took place on September 16th. That's formerly known as the tornado drill. I'm sure some of you have also participated in one of those at some point. And we are in the process of scheduling our bus evacuation drill now that we have worked to secure a partnership with busing. In terms of our COVID data, Lee has had 7 students test positive for COVID to date. In addition to that, we've had 22 students that have been identified as close contacts. So those were students who may have been in close contact with those students, or it may have been a close contact outside of the school environment, and they were required to quarantine and identified as a close contact. In terms of at Lee, the real only area of concern in terms of contact tracing and having a close contact is during the lunch period. Mrs. Mizell is going to talk a little bit about our lunch procedures later on. But that is the the remainder of the day, if students have their masks on, then we don't need to necessarily quarantine students if they're close to someone in a classroom, because everyone is maintaining social distancing and wearing masks. On Friday, we had our sit day, so students were released early, and our staff stayed for some professional development. At Lee, we had a SEL focus. We really want to focus on social emotional learning, especially this year, given coming back to a full day in a pandemic. Lots of things were happening last year with schedule changes and adaptive pauses and all those things. So we're excited to be back and full day, but we have needed to review some tier 1 behavior strategies and reintroducing some calming kits, which are really just a little tub of different fidgets and activities that can be used to help regulate a student who may just need a little bit of a break or is having a hard time in that moment. Our teachers took time to complete the SABRS, which is Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. So that'll give us some social emotional data about our students, and that'll help to identify any students who may need to have some discussion about providing some additional support on that. As a success, I shared about our sensory path, which is actually located right outside the gym here on the way to Tiger Territory. It is still a work in progress. There's some painting going on, and it really is coming together really quickly. We're hoping that by the end of the week that will be finished, and hoping to get some pictures of that out there soon as well. But it's really awesome. In addition, we have been, there was a PTA meeting that took place about a week and a half ago, and during this meeting, the PTA had approved a $1,000 donation towards funding our PBIS and Pride initiatives, such as stocking our Hallmark store here. And they also had approved an additional $1,000 that could be requested mid-year if needed. So just want to take a moment to thank the PTA for their partnership and support of what we have going on here at Lee. And also we talked about a wide variety of events that have happened historically and that we'd like to bring back for this school year. Some of which may not be possible due to some of the parameters that are in place, but we are definitely looking into other opportunities and alternative events that we may be able to come up with some new ideas. So that way we are able to have some of the fun events that have taken place historically. One of those was the Halloween parade, which I heard is really a big event here at Lee. We are planning to bring that back this year on Friday, October 29th in the afternoon, because that is an event outside. We thought that is something that we would be able to accommodate, and we know that it's something that many children look forward to as well. Along with that, we will have an alternative plan should it be raining or whatnot, and that may mean that we may not be able to accommodate for parents to come into the building, but we are thinking of creative ways that we can showcase that event to everyone, perhaps via a live stream or a recording of the event or somehow. So that's still in the works, but our main goal is to make sure that these events are still happening for the children at Lee, and we will definitely be working towards that. There is also an upcoming event in collaboration with the Salvation Army and Union Ridge and Pinoyer, and that is a trunk or treat, which we will also be encouraging everyone to come out to on October 28th in the evening. That's over at Foster and Cumberland, a nice big parking lot there. And we're awaiting further details, but we're excited to share that information once that comes out. And the PTA did ask that we just continue to spread the word about joining the PTA via membership. We've been making sure to include that in the weekly tracks, and also just wanted to make mention of that here tonight. We have been hard at work with our building leadership team, working through our school improvement plan. And right now we are, the work is still in its early stages. We have previewed 3 sections. We're working on our second section right now, which is really focused on looking at the data and determining which data is going to be most effective towards, creating our goals and developing an action plan, which are some of the next steps after that data dive and review. And we're really looking forward to diving a little bit deeper into that to determine what some of the next steps would be. And I would just say that we want to be really intentional with the work that we're doing. And, sometimes that means just, taking the time away to engage, multiple stakeholders throughout that process, and making sure that we're not only focusing on that school improvement plan with our building leadership team, but they're also able to bring it back to their grade level teams, share that information, gather some feedback so that we can really make it a plan that all teachers are invested in. We know that having that investment is ultimately going to lead to the outcomes that we're looking for. So we're really excited about that process, and I believe that wraps up my portion. So thank you very much.
Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay, Dr. Reviol, thank you very much. Mr. Biecki, Giles.
Yes, thank you. Over at Giles, many of the same things I already went into them. First, I'd like to thank the leadership of our assistant principal, Mrs. Christine Ahrens, with the assessments. She's done a wonderful job. Our students have done a fantastic job, as well as our teachers. As I said, we've done Bridge for math and reading. We've done My Savers for our mental health screening. We've done math for reading and math. We've done the IAR for the spring of 21, and that was from last year, and that was for reading and math. We recently, in fact, meaning today, our 6th graders did the Illinois Science Assessment, and we've done access testing for our EL bilingual students. So a lot of testing is going on, but we'll have a lot of data that we'll be able to begin our interventions with right away. Girls softball is off to an exciting start. They're doing a fantastic job. Again, I'd like to thank Ridgewood High School for allowing us to use their field as our home field this year. Cross country held its 2nd meet. They've done a mini meet, and then today they've had their 2nd larger meet. The last meet is on October 4th, and each time they run, it's a 1.5 mile race. So nice job to our cross country athletes. Boys softball tryouts are on Monday, September 27th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. at Giles School. And our girls volleyball tryouts are on Monday, September 27th. 5th through 7th grade is from 3:30 to 5, and then 8th grade is from 5 to 7:30, and that's at Giles School. We recently had, Mr. Bercaro had a band parent organization. We've had our 2nd meeting. We've held an informative meeting with everyone through Giles that was interested in coming out and hearing more about it. We recently held another meeting and discussed fundraisers to support our program. We are excited that we'll be having an October 18th concert, and the committee, parent committee, came up with some great ways to bring in some extra money to help support our inspiring musicians. So we're looking to do some ice cream, a school spirit fundraiser for sweatshirts and t-shirts. We're also working with the Nord Schools Foundation and also with the PTA regarding doing some dine-in with our local restaurants, all to generate some extra revenue to help our band program out. So we're excited regarding that. We completed our safety week at Giles School. We've done 3 fire drills, 2 without the fire department, 1 with the fire department. Ms. Ahrens and I, we blocked an exit, I should say. We blocked an exit so that our staff and students would have to think and use the alternate route in case we ever did have an emergency where we needed to exit the building. So we were proud of everyone for that, thinking quickly on their feet. We also completed a lockdown drill with the Norwich Police Department. We had 2 police officers. We walked around and we were able to make sure that everyone was in the proper place, secured, and also they weren't visible and could not be hurt. And again, our Giles students did a wonderful job with that. We also completed our shelter-in-place severe weather drill at Giles, and we are going to be scheduling a bus drill between both schools so that we can complete that as well. Our picture day is Monday, September 27th here at Giles School, and students will be taking their pictures during their PE block. Just like Lee, they talked about the school improvement plan, but the Giles BLT Building Leadership Team is working to develop a plan to identify our strengths and weaknesses, collect and review key data points, identify trends, develop goals, strategies, and reflect on the work we do. This document is in the beginning stages, and in the end, we'll have a direction that we'll be able to move towards in the future to better support our students. So we're excited for the work that everyone is doing on our school improvement plan. We will be sharing our school improvement plan later on in the school year with the board. This document will be something that will be posted on our website so that the community has access to and can view at any time. We recently had our SIP day on Friday, September 17th. We held grade level meetings. We discussed our student-led conferences. We did a suicide and mandated reporter training. We had goal-setting data entry, and we had subject-level meetings. Another thing that's new this year that I'd like just to pass out to everyone is this year at Giles, we're revamping our what used to be called parent-teacher conferences. They are now called student-led conferences. And we're really excited about this opportunity for the simple fact that we redesigned our schedule, and so we have advisory now. So every teacher is an advisory. The important thing about advisory, it allows for students to have work on executive functioning skills. It also allows for all students to work on social and emotional learning. And instead of having what we used to have in the past, one teacher have these discussions, it's now every teacher is having these discussions with all students. So it's a huge topic in our building, and we're all getting on the same page, working together. Something that you'll be hearing that will be coming out soon, a new phrase we're having at Giles, is called Giles Made. And we're just teaching kids that, how to be positive, to be respectful, responsible, inclusive, determined, and engaged. And that's what it takes to be Giles Made, to be a Giles student. And to take pride in your work, to take pride in your building, and to take pride of everything that you do here within the community. So with our student-led conferences, we're going to be able to showcase the work, but we want students to take the ownership for this. So the students, along with the advisory teachers, are working on developing a presentation that they will be sharing with the parents on our student-led conference day, which is Thursday, October 14th from 4 to 8, and also on Thursday, October 21st, 4 to 8. Our largest class size is 132 students, and in the past we've only had 60 slots. That's gone. That's the nice thing now, because every parent will have an opportunity to have a conference with their advisory teacher. It'll be data driven. They'll see data. They'll have facts. There'll be goal setting. Students will set goals with the support of their advisory teacher. And so we're going to be able to have real data to help support these students going forward. And the nice thing is it's the students taking ownership for their learning. So we're really excited about that. So this flyer is going to be released to the community. I wanted to share it with you before we release it out. Our Giles COVID data, so we've had, since the beginning of the school year, we've had 4 students that have been COVID positive. We've had 1 teacher COVID positive, and we've had 2 close contact cases at our school. We're a little different with our lunch program. Our lunch is only, we have the older kids, it's 15 minutes. By the time the kids get in, we have them separated if you were ever down there. Typically, in the past, we've had maybe 130 spots. We have about 240 seats in the cafeteria. Students are socially distanced, they're out, they're staggered. You're not sitting across from anyone, and you're not sitting next to anyone. We have seats designated with X's, so those are off limits. They're sit by advisory, because we wanted them to get that opportunity. We didn't, when you sit there and say assigned seats during lunchtime, students, right away a negativity comes into it. But we're still able to do close contact tracing because every table is marked by advisory teachers. So they sit within their advisory class. And part of our social and emotional learning and having these discussions is they're continuing those discussions during lunchtime as well. Our PTA, amazing, all the work they do. If you've not, as a parent, if you've not signed up for PTA, please do so. Information is in our weekly tracks. But they also funded us $1,000 for our PBIS store. This Friday, our teachers will be releasing a link for our students to take to see what kind of incentives they want. This is their store. We want them to have ownership for this, and we want to hear their ideas. So they'll be completing a survey, and then we'll take that survey and be able to purchase items from that survey with $1,000 from PTA. We also discussed we're going to be having a fall dance. It's at Giles. It's going to be on November 5th. Our plan is to do it in the back courtyard, outside. If weather does not allow, we'll make a determination going forward. When we have an event, unlike Lee, there's like 300 people that attend events. Here at Giles, we don't get those numbers. We get 100, maybe a little over 100. So our numbers are not as high as they are at Lee. Obviously, we're dealing with a little older set of kids, so mostly this stuff is attended by mostly 5th and 6th graders. So we're working with the PTA to provide opportunities for our students over at Giles as well. As Mr. Grimm said regarding the TikTok, it's a national TikTok challenge that's been put out. It's not very positive. And I'm going to talk a little about it, but I'm also going to have our assistant principal, Mrs. Christine Ahrens, talk about that as well. But we did incur some damage over at Giles School. We did confiscate some video footage of kids causing damage, not only to our bathrooms, but also to our classrooms. And as Mr. Grimm said, any damage, parents were sent a letter. It was just released today, this morning. It went out in today's mail. They'll be invoiced. I have personally made phone calls to every single parent. I had great discussions with them. Everyone fully understands this, and I had no pushback regarding compensating the district for damages. And I don't know if I just said this, but about $1,000 worth of damage has occurred at Giles School. I'd like to review our cell phone policy with everyone, just so everyone is aware. In our handbook, it says often away during the day in your bag. Since this TikTok challenge, we are not allowing students to carry a cell phone, even if they're not using it. If it's in their pockets, it will be confiscated. Ms. Ahrens and I personally went to the classrooms, had this discussion, shared it with the students, let them know what the consequences will be. We will take the cell phone, we will contact the parents, we will require the parents to come pick them up. If a parent is unable to pick them up within a time frame, by the time we leave, I do stay late, Ms. Ahrens does stay late, but it all depends on that day. If they don't come pick it up within that day, then we'll hang on to the cell phone until the next day when the parents can come get it. And I did remind students on Fridays, if they want their cell phones over the weekend, it's best to have it powered off and in their bag. If they do need to have used their cell phone, we don't deny students, but we need students to be advocates for themselves and speak up and ask their teacher for permission. We also allow them to come to the principal's office or the nurse's office to make a phone call if need be. But they need to speak up. They cannot just pull out their cell phone and use it. We're also noticing, is students are using an app to do some math work. And so that is considered cheating because they have to show their work. So we're working with our students on an educational way. We want them to understand the purpose why we're doing this. We're not doing this just because it says it in the handbook. We're doing it because, we need to keep everyone safe. So Ms. Ahrens will talk more about the devious lip. And then I just wanted to remind everyone, I'm on Twitter, so please follow me at my handle at NSD80. I've been posting a lot of stuff regarding athletics, regarding a variety of different things. So follow me, And that concludes my report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Board have any questions? I have a couple. Mr. Becky, you didn't mention boys softball. What happened with that?
So unfortunately, we were unable to field a team. It was placed in the weekly tracks. We had it on our digital board out in front of the school, and we made announcements throughout the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, and then Mr. Gampistoni, our 7th and 8th grade PE teacher, and also our boys softball coach made announcements every day during PE class. Unfortunately, the interest was not there. With athletics, it's like a roller coaster. You're going to have some years where you have groups that are interested in athletics that do an awesome job at athletics, and then you have some years where they're just not into athletics or the talent may not be there. Last year we had a graduating class that won the championships before COVID all hit and did a great job. But right now we're at a trend right now where that was not we didn't have a big interest. For those of you that play softball, play baseball, a lot of the people that play baseball, some parents don't like them playing softball because of the size of the ball. It cuts their swing I can't think of the word, but the swing, it slows it down a little with the ball and the bat. So some baseball coaches don't necessarily like that. I've heard that in the past, and that's why I bring that up. But to answer your question, yeah.
How many players were we short?
So we had 6 people that showed interest, but not everyone. When you want to sign up for a sport, you have to have a physical on file. And that's one thing in the beginning of the year. Every September, August, it's difficult because our parents are getting new physicals. However, a physical is good for a calendar year, so 12 years. So you have to, as I tell our nurse and our coaches, we have to look at the actual date on the physical, because if it's a September 20th date, then they can try it out. It just means that during the season, at some point, they have to get a physical. But we only had 2 or 3, if I recall, that only came with a check for $132 and had a physical on file with our nurse. But we had 6 that showed interest. And unfortunately, we need at least 9 to be out there.
Right, because correct me if I'm wrong, I know Mrs. Guzik sent out a text blast.
Correct.
Looking for some more players, correct?
Correct, yes.
Is that something we can look into doing? You mentioned next Monday there's tryouts that's volleyball, right? Boys and girls, both? Volleyball?
It's volleyball and boys soccer.
Boys soccer,
Yes.
okay. Can we send out a blast on that too?
Sure, so I've been sending out, I don't know if you've received them, some text messages, because we've been have our girls softball games have been played at home, and then some of them have been on the road, but when we didn't have a bus, we had to switch. Right. So I've been trying to be very transparent with all the families, and so I've been texting parents, letting them know that where the game is, the location for that. I absolutely can swift reach out that information out to all the families. Sign-ups, I'm going off of memory. I believe we have 40-something girls interested in volleyball. And in soccer, I believe we had like 20-something interested. So right now we're showing the numbers for soccer, and we are showing numbers for girls volleyball currently.
Good. Are you getting any responses from the community that they didn't know about these teams? Is anybody reaching out to you saying that?
So, it's social media. Everyone watches social media.
But I mean, directly to you or Mrs. Guzik's office or anybody here?
No.
Are you getting anything from parents saying we didn't know about it?
An individual alert me to social media posts.
Yeah.
That was going on, and then we had discussion, and then when I found that out, I did go to our PE teacher, because when I've been going in and out of classrooms, I've observed him doing that, but I wanted to confirm with him again, see that we heard that, and absolutely, it was being confirmed to every single class regarding this. It's just the interest with softball. It's very different.
I'm just saying, if that was the case, if anybody's saying they didn't know about the tryouts, which doesn't seem to be the case from your office, I just want to make sure us as a district try to eliminate that as much as possible.
Absolutely, and when I became aware of that, we opened up the sign-ups and tryouts again, extended it out to get an interest, and again
and there still wasn't enough after that, right? Still wasn't enough after that.
Correct.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's not unique to us. We have several schools in the area that are in the same situation that we are this fall.
So as the former director of athletics, so usually Manheim has about 1,000 kids at their school district. So Pinoyer is a school district that usually does not participate in softball because of their numbers. And so every year I always have Manheim field another team. And so that is what Manheim did this year to compensate for Pinoyer. It was kind of a shock for us at Giles because typically we have a softball team.
Yeah.
But again, it's like a roller coaster.
Got it.
Is it an option to combine with Pinoyer to make a team? Is that?
So that was a discussion that was discussed. However, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that that have to be looked into and identified because your insurance, where the site of where practice is going to be, how are we going to get there? Are we going to have transportation for if it's 4 kids? Is it going to be at Pinoyer? Is it going to be here at Giles? So there's a lot of factors that go into that. I wouldn't say that we could not do that, but that would be something that would have to be probably looked at from summer on. It's not something that can be done immediately.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Christine?
Oh, sure. At Giles, we've had 7 students receive in-school suspension for the devious lip challenge. As Mr. Grimm and Mr. Bianchi went into some detail, the devious lip challenge is when students record themselves on TikTok doing damage to school property. At Giles, we had 2 soap dispensers broken down and soap taken from those soap dispensers. We had students use surgical mask ear loops to saw off parts of our chair and desk combo, as well as using it to damage a Chromebook. We accrued around $1,000 worth of damage, 2 soap dispensers, 10 chair and desk combos, and 1 Chromebook. The punishment for doing so was 2 days of in-school suspension. If it was found out that a student wasn't being entirely honest about their role in the devious lip challenge, they received an additional half-day in-school suspension. So we had some students who served 2 days, we had some students who served 2.5 days. So we've really been working hard to say your cell phones are off and away during the day. If we see a cell phone, we confiscate it just because we can't police students if it's in their pocket and they're going to the bathroom. That's when they were recording and trying to partake in the devious lip challenge. However, we are trying to also recognize all the students who work to be Giles made. So every week, we recognize 2 students per grade level for being student of the week. They're called down to the front office, they receive a certificate and a pencil sticker combo, and we take their picture and celebrate everything they do to help make Giles a wonderful place to be. Mr. Bianchi and I are working very hard to be present in the hallways and the lunchroom so the students know that we are administrators, we are there to support them, but also to have a presence so if anything is happening, one of us is there and can be a witness to what is going on. And I'd like to share with you our students. Teachers are working hard to celebrate Spirit Week, the first week of October at Giles. So each day has its own theme. On Monday, we are a part of a team, so we are wearing our favorite team's jersey to school, or any team's jersey to school. Tuesday is make it easy, or hey, make it easy to start a conversation, so identifying ourselves with our names on our shirts. Wednesday, October 6th is Green Out Day. We're honoring lives lost to gun violence by wearing green to promote awareness and call attention to the Start Hello Week. Thursday, October 7th is Favorite Activity or Hobby Shirt Day, so an article of clothing that displays something that's important to you. And then on Friday, we are wearing our Giles Pride wear to be proud and be Giles made. Do you have any questions or?
Board have anything?
I think this is great.
This also goes in with our social emotional learning, but also the Sandy Hook Promise. For many of you that are all aware of the Sandy Hook issue in Connecticut. And so this is something how we can make awareness to students. If you need help, we're here to help you.
I just want to make a quick comment, Christine, after your report and Bob's. Being on the board the time we've been on, what I've learned and what I believe the board has learned is it's not our job to sit up here and tell you how to do your job. That's your job. You're the professionals to do it. Our job is to put the people in place who we believe are going to execute the goal and the vision of the board and the community. In no way, shape, or form is it acceptable, whatever TikTok challenge or social media, to have that being done. So, with that being said, the board approved a new structure administratively based on the recommendation of the people that we have in place, being a principal now in each building, an assistant principal in each building, to handle these type of issues like you're doing, and we much appreciate it. What I want you to know from this board is that we fully support you in what you think is right to carry out, and that's with the district policies, the handbook, with student parent handbook, and if need be, the criminal aspects of law enforcement. So whatever you think you need to do to stop this behavior, you have the support of the board. We believe we know we have the right people in place. So I thank you for that report, and keep doing what you're doing. Don't let it continue. Thank you. That's it. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to also share, I admire the fact that you guys are telling the kids to keep their cell phones away during school. I mean, I don't know when that stopped from years before. I mean, you weren't allowed to have anything like that before anyway. I think it's a big distraction, and I think with all the other things that you guys have going on here, that's only going to benefit them going forward, especially with all that crazy social media stuff that we got going on now. But this is really exciting. I'm excited about this in particular, and I know all the parents are going to be excited about this too. The Spirit Week is always cool, so I think you guys are all doing a great job. Thank you.
Sarah?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. You're welcome.
Good evening. I don't have any discipline data to report from Lee School, but we are also tracking the Devious Lick Challenge. Our teachers are aware of it, and they have brought to us some incidents in our 4th grade bathroom of behavior that is not following the expectations of our Lee students, in that of being respectful, responsible, and safe in our bathrooms. Dr. Raviol and I visited all of the classrooms yesterday to reiterate the message that their teachers are also sharing with them, and that is to make sure that we are caring for our property, caring for our school, and making sure that they hear the message from us as well, so that they know that that is the expectation to be responsible and respectful and safe at Lee as well. The Pride assemblies that Dr. Raviola talked about were such a hit. Being in grade level teams was really great to be able to cater to the needs of our younger students and then kind of change things around for our older students. So that was a really positive way to start off our year. They really enjoyed seeing Stripes, our tiger mascot, during that time. And thank you to Stripes for coming. He made several appearances throughout the week. Our teachers are using the same messaging in their classrooms. We hear it throughout our day of being respectful, responsible, and safe. Being able to talk to students about that, they're able to use that language as well. I've met with a couple of students over the past couple of days and asked them, what are things that you're doing on the playground, in the hallways, in the lunchroom, that follow those expectations. Our PBIS committee met today, and this is a committee that we wanted to re-engage. During COVID, things priority shifted. So this was a committee that our staff really felt needed to be picked back up. Part of our really amazing Pride program that Wendy High, one of our kindergarten teachers, runs here at Lee, is part of that PBIS program. But the PBIS committee is trying to kind of take ownership of some of those other things. Looping in our second step curriculum, which is our SEL curriculum. And so we met today to talk about a couple of things. The first thing is that we wanted to have monthly themes at Lee. And the first one is going to be growth mindset for the month of October. That is in alignment with our second step. So our teachers are going to be doing some things in second step to help with the messaging. Our PBIS committee is also going to be putting out some presentations, some PowerPoint presentations that can be shared that also support that same message under the PBIS umbrella. Call Mart, which is a huge hit for our students. They love this. It's a little different at Lee. The tangible reward of a cost, are in our little lanyards here. These are given out all day, every day to our students, and the students keep them to use as a way to trade in for different items that are in our Call Mart. So our Call Mart is getting up and running, and thank you again to the PTA for helping support that and giving some funding in order to buy some of the little incentive things that are really important to our younger students. Our PBIS committee is also planning some monthly activities. We're hoping that buddies can be back, where our older students are paired with the younger grade levels and paired up as buddies to do some fun activities. And then lastly, assemblies, because the kids just love them. So the PBIS committee is taking on that. I'd also like to piggyback on the lunch and recess procedures. So it's a little, we started with a lot of mapping when we started putting together our lunch and recess procedures. We took the number of students divided by the lunch tables, and that's how many students we were able to seat at the lunch tables. We do have that mapped out. We put stars on the seats so the kids would know, go to your red star, your blue star, your green star. Have the letters on them as well for our kindergarten students who are still learning their letters. And they're to sit on those so that they're socially distanced. Those maps have been super helpful. The students are assigned a specific table and a specific spot at the table, because we do have to do contact tracing when we have a COVID positive case, because those students are there without masks on for more than 15 minutes because for lunch times during that. We are looking into some other ideas as to how we can house our students to space them out a little bit more and trying to get creative with some of the spaces that we have here at Lee.
Board comments, questions?
I have a quick question. This is actually for Giles. I don't have any kids at Giles, but a couple parents were concerned about carrying their books throughout the day, their lunches, their gym clothes. How much time do they have between classes, and what do you guys recommend? Do they have time to drop off books? I don't know much about where their advisory classes versus where the rest of their classes are. How much time do they have, and what do you recommend to these parents about alleviating some books throughout the day and not having to carry their lunches and gym clothes?
Right. So at Giles, our building is designed by wing. So we have a 5th, 6th grade wing, which are in the same hallway, and we have a 7th grade wing, and then we have an 8th grade wing. So all the classes that they need to go to are all within the same wing, except for PE, and then they have arts and STEAM. Those are at different areas throughout the building that all the classes go to. So there's not a specific, like a 2-minute passing period or a 1-minute passing period. Students just, when the bell rings, they go to their next class. At Giles, we're pretty unique now in the digital, everything is pretty much virtual. Like textbooks are online. So I've been instructing parents that have asked me that question. They really don't need to carry much except for their Chromebook. What they should do is they should have most of the supplies teachers have, and they're in carts or crates that teachers keep in each classroom. And if a teacher is going to do something that requires maybe colored pencils, that teacher has been instructed in the beginning of the year to give those students a heads up that they'll need them for a certain day, so that that's not something that they're carrying around all day. So if some students are, especially our 5th and 6th graders, it's a new environment, they get a little nervous and they want to have everything because they don't want to forget anything. So my recommendation that I tell parents, if you have a child that likes to carry their stuff and have everything with them, they sell backpacks that are on wheels with handles, and I encourage those students that like to take that stuff with them to have that. But yeah, they shouldn't be carrying too much supplies with them. A Chromebook, maybe some paper, folder, notebook, and pencils. Or
I'd
pens.
like to add with lunch, they keep it in their advisory classroom, and then when the bell rings at 11:25 for 7th and 8th grade to go to lunch or recess, or at 11:55 for 5th or 6th grade, kids travel back to their advisory, drop off their morning supplies, get their lunch, go outside. When it's time to come back in, put their lunchbox, if they have one, back in their advisory and grab their afternoon books. So kids are successful with that, and if there's ever a situation where a kid goes to a room and their teacher's not there, we problem solve that. So some classes have lunch buckets where they deposit their lunch in there, and then the teacher, if he or she's going to another class, just puts it right outside the room. But most teachers are in their classrooms before lunch, so students know to go in and then go to lunch. The first couple of weeks was a learning curve, especially being fully back in school and eating lunch in a more normal environment. But I haven't heard any feedback in the past couple of weeks. I think we had to work out some kinks at the beginning of the school year.
And just to acknowledge, some of our sixth graders were never in school last year. So it's not only a fifth grade that's new to the building, it's many of our sixth graders as well. And so we've been very, understanding of that. And teachers have been doing a wonderful job standing in the hallway, directing. I had staff, everyone, social workers, psychologists, whatever your role, assistant principal, me, we're all in the hallway helping the students. And we do tend to focus a little more during that first couple weeks in that fifth, sixth grade hallway. But the nice thing is they're all in the same hallway.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Sarah, thanks for your report, and Christine and Bob for answering the question. Thank you. Special education report, Mr. David Dorn.
Yeah, it's always hard because so much of what I see being done well is things that I can't share publicly because it involves private information. I want to respect that. There's a lot of great things going on. I always have to start by thanking the teams at Jobs and Need, because at the end of the day, all students are general education students first that also receive special education services, and I really appreciate the schools and the teams recognizing that. We're really proud to share that last year, the Illinois State Board of Education rolled out a new quality control instrument to monitor the effectiveness of special education programs across the state. And we got the highest ranking, which was a better term than this, but we got a great meets expectation. We got 27 out of 27 in a lot of areas. One area that I want to highlight that took a lot of work is maintaining a lot of our child find responsibility, identifying students who might need special education services. That's been really hard to do within COVID, and also COVID might be a mitigating factor that might cause. Do they really have unidentified areas of need, or these things are being exacerbated by a pandemic? Another area I want to point out from this report is the statewide goal for educating students in the least restrictive environment, which the state, I believe, identifies as 80% of their day or more within a general education setting. The state goal is 52.7% of all students with IEPs. We currently are, for federal fiscal year 20, was 79.4. So I mean, this is incredible, the work that is going on every day. And this is hard, and as Ralph says, all means all. And if you really mean it, that's a lot of hard work, and our staff do a lot of hard work every single day. I'm really proud of them. Another thing that the board needs to be aware of, on just a large scale, I don't know the stats for the district as a whole. We've had a huge influx of students registering and coming to Norwich, but for special education, that means 10% increase, or close to 10% increase in the number of students with IEPs that have moved into this district and are receiving services and have a variety of needs. The big lift right now is implementing students' plans. An IEP plan goes for 1 year from when it's written. We can update it in between. But starting the year off, making sure that we're hitting the ground running with those plans in place. We also are starting into our annual review process. We do it year round, but we really kind of pushed where a lot of our IEPs that were due at the beginning of the year, we kind of did a plan in April and May so that the team that knew them best developed the plan for the next year. And that created us breathing rooms for intakes, but also for us to kind of get into routines and everything like that in classrooms. We have a special education committee. We also have a co-teach committee that's working on not only growing our plan and improving our plan. We are looking for, as Mr. Grimm stated, we're looking for paraprofessionals. We are in need. There is a staffing shortage that I know everybody in this room is probably aware of. That's something that we're constantly looking. I've been texting candidates. I've never done that before. I've always called for an interview, but now I'm texting to see if people want to come and for interviews because not everybody loves voicemails. There's been a lot of professional development, as you know and you're aware of, especially targeted towards co-teaching. But I also wanted to give specific kind of on-the-job professional development that our model teachers have been doing. Rachel Calkers, Becky Fusola, Alicia Norgard, Kelly Trump have been providing a lot of time supporting our new teachers and onboarding them. And that's something that this board approved, but also our union, and we work together to develop a plan that kind of makes sure that a teacher steps in order to go to District 80 with support in order to be successful. And that's not just something in special education, that's across the board, but I wanted to recognize that. And then also, Dr. Tian and Julie Lorenz, our school psychologists, have recently been providing training on our Fast Bridge progress monitoring so that we are tracking the growth and progress of our students with exceptionalities and adjusting the plans as needed. And then I also just want to thank Pinoyer. We went to a PFA, that's a preschool for all event. We don't have a PFA grant. That's something we've looked into. I believe they're not funding them until 2023, and as soon as we are funded, we will look at getting that. But it's also nice for a child fund. We really do believe deeply in early intervention, and this board has supported early intervention. And the earlier that we get students in to be able to support those children and those families, the better the outcomes we have. There's a lot of things going on in so many different ways, but those are some of the highlights that have just happened in the last month. I don't know if the board has any questions that we want to answer, but I'm also willing to talk at any time.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much. Okay, Michelle Guzik is not here tonight. She's actually in Springfield. She's on some training down there on behalf of the district. So Ralph Grimm is going to give us an update from Michelle Guzik.
All right, I'll try and be quick. This is Mrs. Guzik's assistant superintendent report, and what I've asked her to do is just kind of give you an idea of some of the things that she's been working on. She worked very closely with Mr. Biedke on the transportation issue for the after-school issue that we had. You'll be approving an intergovernmental agreement with Leiden District 212. We have worked out the leasing agreement for the bus, which, you know, the insurance people would tell us one thing, the attorneys would tell us something else, and then it seemed that their guidance switched, and we finally got it all worked out. Michelle and Bob did a great job on that. Michelle has worked on all issues COVID. She's taken the lead on the mandate and testing issues. She and I have been in constant communication about that. Supporting the principals on COVID situations, and really implementing the changing guidance here in the district. We've been working on our policy updates. One of the things that I found and I've talked to you about is the number of board policies that have not been updated over the last year and a half. And so we have broken that up into 3 chunks, if you will. A little bit later in the meeting, you're going to hear a report on the first big chunk of policies that we're going to send off tomorrow, I believe, to the press policy service and get those updated. Grants, she's worked on completing expenditure reports from 2021, submitting grants for 21-22, and really just getting us caught up on several other things. One of the things that we found when we dug into it was we had a lot of grants that hadn't been completed. We had reports that weren't completed. They weren't done on a timely basis. So we're going back and we're making sure that all of those are done and that they're done correctly, as well as trying to stay on top of all the ones that need to be done for this year. Residency, Mrs. Guzik works with our residency investigator. There have been a number of investigations so far in terms of making sure that students who want to enroll are in fact legal residents of District 80. She's working with the Cook County Department of Public Health to secure emergency EpiPens. And we're making some changes in our financial system. We're moving to an electronic purchase order system with the administrative team and streamlining some financial processing and procedures to align with board policy, as well as HR policies and procedures to align with board policy. And she worked, I think, pretty closely with Dr. Schilling on the development of the FY22 budget. And I want to thank Dr. Schilling and Mrs. Guzik, the administrators, for their work on the budget. We'll talk more about that, but that is not just something that's done overnight. And we're pretty pleased with where we are with that. So that is her assistant superintendent report. You also have the staffing report in your packet as item 12E. She did give me a couple of comments to make about that. We've talked about a couple of things. We have moved a couple of special ed paraprofessionals to better meet individual student needs and IEP requirements. Again, working closely with Mr. Dorr and the principals. We are asking the board to approve a special ed teacher for 7th and 8th grade math and a district special ed paraprofessional. These are budgeted positions. We have several additional teaching and para positions to fill, and we're working on those. There are 2 staff leaves, one for FMLA and one for an unpaid leave. And you'll also see on the agenda that we are asking you to approve the employment of a part-time bus driver to actually drive the bus that we will be getting from Leiden for our after-school activities. Also in the packet, we have a contract for certified nurse for special ed evaluations when they are needed. We'll talk more about that when we get to that portion of the agenda.
Any questions, board? Okay. Ralph, thank you. Moving on to our board committees. Board policy and development, Ralph touched on a little bit right now. We're going to review previously approved but unfinished policy revisions. In the board book, one of those revisions occur under fund balances, and Craig, because I have you here right now, our policy is going to read fund balance to revenue ratio no less than 33%. Where are we right now? Okay, I think we're like right there.
It's right here. It's the projected at the end of the year would be just over that.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, prior to this revision, the district's policy with fund balances was not at 33. It was actually in the 20s, wasn't it?
There wasn't any.
Okay. Yeah.
There was no budget policy.
Yeah, okay.
The budget policy was developed along with several others because of the need to have them for standards and poors and other things when you go out for bonds and so forth. And so the state board has a minimum of 25%. But I've always recommended to school districts to have 33%, even though the profile says 25, because if you're at 25 and something happens in an emergency, now you don't meet that highest expectation. And the other reason is because in Cook County, if you look at what just happened, 33% gets you through 4 months. Well, we were supposed to get our money in August, so August, September, it's 2 months late now. They have hardly done anything in the city for next year. It may be later next year. So that 4 months is really helps us for cash flow.
So that's where I got that mid-20s from, because I know we talked about that before.
25 is the financial profile when we look at, and that's to revenue. But I've always recommended more than that in Cook County because of the fact of the second installment can be, in some years it's been December, it's been 6 months late.
So we're actually putting that in black and white now into the policy, which was never before.
It's been in the policy.
Yeah. No, I mean the 33%.
It has been in the policy.
Okay, I thought you said we didn't have it before.
No, when there was no budget policy in the district.
Correct. Right. Correct.
We created the budget policy to outline what the priorities of the district would be and to set a goal for the reserves and now.
Okay.
So there should be one now.
Right. Understood.
There is.
Okay.
This is just affirming that that's what you still want.
It's at 33%?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
The other ones that I'll mention, Craig, thank you very much. The other ones I'll mention, just for who's here, it's in the board book, is the uniform grievance procedure. Expenses, public participation at Board of Education meeting and petitions to the board. And that's it.
Yeah, so these are just updates that we're going to submit to IASB tomorrow with the corrected information as a way to move some things along that were approved previously, quite a while ago, but the questions were not answered and submitted. They will be submitted as we have them here tomorrow.
Okay, Ralph, thank you. So that's it from Board Policy and Development. Building and Grounds.
So I have a question. So if you're going to submit them, when would they be, or would they cover, in times ever to be able to be available for a parent to look at?
Our policies?
Yes.
They're on the website.
Thank you. Just making sure.
Frank?
From what Pat Rossi reported on, the entrance is pretty much done, like the glass, the steam labs, like near to the home stretch, and plugging away at life safety. And I was very glad to see the crumbling ramp at Giles finally get the attention needed. It's been a long time coming, but it was just didn't know how to go about remedying that. But I'm glad you approached that and took care of it. Other than that, well, I think we're all pretty aware of what's going on with his reports. So
great stuff.
I would just add, and Pat, I'm going to put you on the spot, the Regional Office of Education will do their compliance visit, their annual compliance visit on
the next Tuesday.
Right, next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll come in, they do this every year, Pat will walk with them, others will walk with them, and then we'll get a report from them.
When we get that report, Ralph and Pat, can we compare last year's report to this year's? Is it the same? Is the same format?
We're judged on the same life safety codes.
Yeah.
Our codes every year.
Wow.
And you'll see the comparison. Like
Yeah. Can we get last year's and this year's as well? Thank you, guys.
you mean to say that it's led by West Cook?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll also, not to interrupt, but we're also going to be joined by the Norwood Park Fire Department. So they're going to come out, and this year, for the first time ever, the state fire marshal has been approaching ROEs to do some life safety surveys with them. So we may get a visit from a member of the Illinois State Fire Marshal. I've been in schools for 26 years. I've never seen the Illinois State Fire Marshal. I've always heard of them, and they always kind of threaten you with calling them. Nobody ever does. So this is a significant step forward in their interpretations of these codes. And I'm sure Ralph has heard all about this at the state level as far as superintendents and stuff.
Okay, very good. Communications.
We'd like to thank the parents that attended the first communication meeting on September 2nd. Some discussion we had were that no events were appearing on the District 80 website calendar. I did notice last week I actually went out there to check something, and I did notice everything. The calendar has all the events. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It looked wonderful. I actually used it. The parents that attended, they were saying the communication is overwhelming, and they were requesting that we return to Friday folders. We had stated, why that was taken away last year, and that weekly tracks is too long. We had discussed, and that a lot of information is being missed because it is long. They also requested, if possible, we can add some more information to the website instead of the weekly tracks, so they can go back to the website so they can see some information that's missed. They also would like to see a monthly Board of Education newsletter where we can share important information and highlight events. Lou and I will be working on a template, and we will share that at the next communication meeting to see if they would like to see anything added or amended to it. That's it. Do you have anything else?
Not this time.
Any comments or questions? I don't have any comments. Is that it? Finance.
So last month, you know, I went over that board.
I can't hear you, Molly. I'm sorry.
What?
I can't hear anything you're saying. I feel you're speaking, but I can't hear you.
That's okay. So last month we met, Mr. Shelley came and Dr. Flynn came and presented the budget to us as the board. And this month now we're going to review for official approval. So I have nothing else to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next three on the agenda: education, parent, teacher advisory, and behavioral intervention committees. Instead of going one at a time saying there's nothing to report, I'm going to specify those are ad hoc committees. Those are as needed. We haven't met on any of those three, thus nothing to report. Norwich Park District.
Sure. We met on August 25th, and I know she's not here, but I want to thank Michelle Guzik for providing detailed notes. She did a great job that was shared in the board book. So I just want to touch on a few things that what we went over. We're all on the same page with the Park District of coming together and working together to see how we can make the kids in District 80 some new and exciting things that we can provide. There were some maintenance discussions, and I'm sure that was conveyed to you, Pat, and so I don't want to go over that. One of the main visions myself and the board have is to expand after-school programs within the district. We think utilizing our facilities and space, it would be a good opportunity for our kids and parents to really take advantage of some of the things we can offer. I know they do have an before and after care, but we want to get into more specifics of things we talked about, maybe coding and extra STEAM classes, even sports, whatever they can provide. We really want to expand with them. They are on board, they're excited as well. There's some contractual agreements within giving them the opportunity to provide some of these after school activities. We want to pursue these, right? So where we're at today is they're not waiting on us for anything. They want to update their flyers, and they want to present to us some ideas that they're thinking of. But I want to utilize our administration as well to see what you guys feel might be a good fit and our students would like to see. I know Giles, they're old enough where they can share some of their ideas. We talked to Michelle, possibly having someone from Norwich Park come into an advisory and sharing some ideas or discussing with them what they might feel would work. And we're open to working with Norwich as well, advertising. If parent, teacher, any opportunity they have where they can advertise their programs, we're willing to help as well. So we're just waiting on some information from them, but at some point, reach out and see where they're at on that, because it's very important to us. We want to expand the after-school programs.
So you know that they have, by contract, the right to offer programs first. Mrs. Guzik and I have talked about this, and I've asked Mrs. Guzik to schedule a meeting with Anna Marie so that we can kind of get a timeline put together on when we can have some decisions about what they're going to be able to do so that we can go forward. We have an opportunity with our ESSER 3 money to do some, I'll call them after school programs, but they would really be enrichment type programs, much of like what you were talking about, coding. There's some really neat stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money that we could do a little bit at a time, which would engage some of our students who don't do sports or some other things. So I think we're on the same page. We just need to have another meeting with Anna Marie and her team, and then we'll report back to you.
For Chris, anything you wanted to add?
No, I thought the communication was great with them, and I think they know what our expectations or desires are. So I think that when we do meet again, hopefully they'll have something, that will be very beneficial to the community.
That's it.
Yeah, I got you. Give me 1 second. I just want to be in line with this. I got you. Okay, thank you. I just want to add one thing, Ralph. You and I met on our agenda meeting with Michelle, and like was mentioned by you, Renzo, and Ralph, there is contractual agreements. There's language in place for these after-school programs. At the same time, we want to be good partners and we want to work with who that agreement is with. That doesn't mean, and I've given Ralph and Michelle direction specifically to try to expedite that process and move forward in a timely manner. Doesn't mean we're going to wait till next year to get these programs going. They need to start sooner than later, and Ralph and Michelle know that. Moving on to our consent agenda. I'll ask the board to consider the approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion on the board's end? Okay. I'll ask the board for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Molly, seconded by Maria. Sarah, roll call.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to action items. Consider the approval of updates to the 2021-2022 Parent-Student Handbook. Discussion by the board. Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the updates to the 2021-2022 Parent-Student Handbook.
I'll motion.
Second.
Renzo, Frank. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consideration for approval of Memorandum of Understanding with Norwich Education Association of Teachers, also known as NEAT, regarding teacher evaluations. I'm being asked to table that tonight by Interim Superintendent Grimm, so we will do that. We'll table that for another time.
Yeah, I just want everybody to know, we have shared this document with the leadership of NEAT. They have shared it with the IAA legal team, and they just haven't heard back. They have indicated to us that they don't think there will be any issues with this, but they want to run it by their legal, which we certainly understand. We appreciate their cooperation with us on this.
All right. I'll ask the board to consider approval of a contract with Maxim for special education nursing evaluations for the 2021 through 2022 school year. Discussion on the board's end, or anybody? I'll ask for a motion to approve the contract with Maxim for special education nursing evaluations for the 2021 through 2022 school year.
Second.
Molly, then Maria. Roll call, please, sir.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I'll ask the board to consider the approval of the Norwich School District 80 fiscal year 22 budget. Discussion? Questions? Okay, I'll ask for the motion to approve the Norwich School District 80 fiscal year 22 budget. Frank?
Second.
Chris? Roll call, please.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd ask the board to consider the approval of CDW quote for the purchase of 94 Chromebooks in the amount of $34,717.96. Questions, discussions?
Is this just like replacement Chromebooks or?
Yes, and to fill in where we're a little short. I believe we're using SR2 money to pay for these. This is a planned expenditure, but we're just now getting to the point where we can make this recommendation to you.
Good, Maria? Okay. Any other questions? All right. I'll ask the board for a motion to approve the CDW quote for the purchase of 94 Chromebooks in the amount of $34,717.96.
Motion.
Second.
Molly, Maria, roll call, please.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd ask the board to consider the approval of quotes for chiller installation at Lee and Giles schools from the Sendra Service Corp. Giles School specifically $22,430. Lee School, exact amount $22,430. Discussion, questions, comments, concerns.
I have one question. How is there any wiggle room inside of these quotes? Like, is there going to be a surprise during installation?
No, so what I did was, I put together a job scope of what is going into the job. And we had 3 vendors bid it out, 4 actually. We had Train, which we knew was going to be the high end. And then we had Oak Brook Mechanical, Forest Mechanical, and Central Service. So I did a scope review with each contractor and went through piece by piece what was involved in the installation. And they all agreed upon it. Once we had the low bidder, the low quote, I did an additional scope review done to review everything that was going to be included. So right now, there's no surprises. Everything is out in the open. It's pretty standard removal and replacement.
Thanks, Mike.
I think too, you could add, correct, this was consistent with what the work or price that we would do to ourselves.
Correct.
It's not much different than that.
Correct. And we also engaged our architect to do a peer review. We need a permit set for the ROE, so that will be going to the ROE for their stamp. And then what's going to happen is the architect's going to have his engineer just double check, make sure everything is correct, and then they'll stamp it, approve it. Then we'll go to a regional office of education. They'll issue permit set, or they'll issue a permit. We'll do the work. They'll tell us it's complete, and we'll do it.
I'm so glad I asked. That's an excellent explanation.
So I'm going to add this too. In our agenda meeting last week, it was brought to my attention by Ralph and Michelle that there's a grant within the state that this district is going to be applying for that will help. I'm going to let Ralph clarify that, either the installation or the maintenance of them, correct?
We're actually, I believe now, we're going to use the building maintenance grant to pay for the chiller, not the installation, but we'll actually pay for one of the 2 that we purchased. So that grant's a matching grant for $50,000. So it'll cover almost the entire purchase cost of one. And I really need to thank Pat for his work on this. He made this sound easy, but he got quotes from 3 vendors, actually 4. We didn't like the first one by a long shot. I asked him to go get more quotes, and he did. He did a really nice job. Saved us a tremendous amount of money by doing so.
And just to add, I appreciate that, Mr. Grimm. We are in line for $5,265 in rebate money from ComEd, and at Giles, and $4,280 of rebate money from Lee School from the ComEd Energy Grant. So that money will also go. That's great. So for transparency's sake, originally we had 15,000 in our budget if we were going to do it in-house. We're going to need a crane, whether we do, whoever did it, they're going to need a crane. There's certain things that are going to be, you know, you're going to need whether whoever does it. It's just the markup and those other issues that come with it.
All right, thanks, guys. That's great. Thank you. Board, anything else before I ask for the motion? Okay. I need a motion to approve the quotes for chiller installation at Lee and Giles schools from the Sendra Service Corp. Giles School, $22,430. Lee School, $22,430. Louis, seconded by Frank. Roll call, sir.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Grimm right now. We have some discussion items.
All right, thank you,
You're
Mr. Palazzo, much appreciated.
Sure.
The first discussion item is 16A, is a proposed change in administrative assistant structure. You have included in your packet a note to you from Mrs. Guzik outlining essentially what we are going to ask you to consider. And essentially what that boils down to is we'd like to employ an additional administrative assistant to act as a district registrar. This person would be responsible for residency, registration of district families, collection of fees, district compliance with federal and state mandates, as well as a few other things that we will, with your permission to move forward, compile in the form of a job description. We think that this is necessary to take the pressure off of the secretaries in each of the offices at Giles and at Lee School. There's plenty of work for everyone to do, and this will eliminate some of the stress that we saw on our secretarial team during the last week of July and the first 2 weeks of August. It was pretty stressful. And so you see there that we would like to bring, with your permission to move forward, we'd like to bring to you next month for approval a job description, and then we would begin advertising for candidates, and we would move this along as quickly as we could from that point on.
Where would the registrar be located? Because it's going to be one for both schools, correct?
Be one for both schools, and it would be down in our area.
Thank you.
I don't know how to describe that other than our area. Is this something that we can have consensus on to move forward with?
Yes, from where I sit, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Then discussion item B is very similar in nature. We would like to begin the process of revising our maintenance and building and grounds work, kind of streamline this, if you will, and so we're providing you a proposal tonight that outlines what that would look like as we go forward with this. The recommendation, or what we'd like to ask you to consider and allow us to move forward with, is to, at some point, employ a director of buildings, grounds, and maintenance. And the vision is that this person, when we find the right person and get them properly trained, would be responsible for the coordination of those employees that work in those categories. We would have one person supervising a maintenance person in each building that would be dedicated to that building, but yet be flexible enough to work in either building as need be. And the same thing would be true with the director position, if you would. And then in the summertime, and when it's necessary, this person would also oversee our summer workers, who we hired this summer, and I think they did a really good job. We got a lot of quality work from them, as well as the two young men we hired to do the grounds work, the mowing and taking care of those kinds of things. Really what we want to do is put all this under one umbrella. And Again, we would like to have permission from you tonight to put together an appropriate job description, have some conversation with Pat about this, and we would like to, again, move this forward as soon as we can to find someone to put in place. Not that we're trying to push Pat out, he's not going to get that lucky. We want him to stay on board through the rest of this school year, and then on a consultant as needed basis going forward until this group comes together and begins to work well together. We don't have anyone in mind for this position at this point. We just want to have you give us your blessing to move forward with this so that we can begin to put this in place.
So I'll say, Ralph, what I had mentioned to you in our meeting last week, agenda-wise. I can support I'm speaking for myself. I can support the structure you want. I read through the board book here as to how we're going to go about it. So I support it. The people we have in place right now, and I'm going to say it again, which is I'm going to reiterate what's in the board book. I like what we have as far as the experience and the knowledge and the people that are on board right now. So I'm gonna reverse what I said in regards to our partnership with somebody trying to push the pedal down and trying to get us those after-school programs in an expeditious way, right? The maintenance department, yes, I support the structure that's proposed, but it needs to be that right person, and when the time is right, then we transition to that phase. So that's where I sit on that. So I do support it at a pace that's appropriate.
I'm confused. So instead of
I can't hear you, Lou.
I'm a little confused. So instead of us looking for another maintenance guy, we're looking for somebody to be in charge of the maintenance guys we have right now. We need boots on the ground.
Yeah, and I envision this person would be someone who does work, who works closely with the two guys in the building, but also serves as that coordinator.
Right. As long as their boots are on the ground.
Yeah, I don't see this as a non-working position, not at all.
Okay.
And I know, if I could, Pat, you were in on these discussions as well, correct?
Yeah,
Up to this point?
I will do whatever you guys want me to do.
Okay.
I want to help out the department. I also understand that Michelle would like one throat to choke, right? During the day, I'm not here, she wants to be able to reach out to somebody and get something done right at that moment. I understand the need to do that. So again, I'll help however you want me to help. I'm only a phone call away. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You can always come over for lunch, whatever, available to eat. But I would, I'll do whatever makes the process go smoothly.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Pat. Anybody else on the board? All right. We got one more discussion piece, Ralph, right?
Okay, so the last discussion piece, when I went back and reviewed last September's board meeting agenda, I noticed that one of the action items was to approve District 80 goals. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I've been here, I don't know, 10 years, and I haven't heard of any district goals. You guys are supposed to laugh. That tells me you're paying attention.
I'm going to hear you, Ralph.
Okay. So what I included in the board book for you is the document that was presented to you last September. And I wanted to bring this back to you just to get your reaction to these things. And then to suggest to you that we engage in some additional conversation about board goals. And if we're not happy with these, then I want to talk to you about participating in a strategic planning process that will help the board identify what the district goals should be and have them written in a manner that allows us to actually achieve those goals, monitor them, evaluate, revise as needed, so that we have some idea of where we're going in the future across a wide continuum of topics. Staffing, curriculum, budget, okay, buildings and grounds, and a variety of other key areas that we are working on, but perhaps they could all benefit from getting a little more specific attention and direction from the board. So I wanted to bring these to you tonight. I'd like to have some more conversation about these next month, and then see if there's willingness on the part of the board to engage in a strategic planning process that would end up with either these goals or a combination of these goals and new goals, but with a little more meat put on the bones so that they could be achieved. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Yes.
The timing of this is really optimal because you are only 4 months into the 2-year cycle with this board, I believe, and you are going to be transitioning to a new superintendent. So I think this will help her have an appreciation for what it is the board really identifies as their goals and critical for the district to move forward. So I think the timing for this is really good. So if you're all right with that, then I'd like to proceed along those lines with you next month.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Anyone else? Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Any board comments in general? I'm going to make one, Ralph. I brought it up to you earlier about the traffic, and I think I'm going to do that now. So a resident reached out to me who lives, and I believe that's the 8200 block of Giddings. They're having some issues with traffic in their alley and on their street, specifically at pickup time. And I know the school doesn't necessarily govern the street or alley for that matter. But I'd like us to reach out to Norwich PD, and I'd like us to, I have some pictures that were sent to me as well, specifically in that alley, and address it with them. Ralph, if we can get it to Michelle or yourself, or somebody can address it with Norwich PD, specifically after school hours, 8200 block of Giddings in the alley. And I see it for myself when I pick up my kids. I would definitely classify it as an issue. The alley's blocked from entering, probably exiting as well. I mean, you can't get out on either side. I can't see down to the west. But if we can follow that up. I also know that a traffic study was done prior to COVID. I'd like us to follow back up with the Village of Norwich.
I have an update for you.
Okay, if you can update us on that, because we got to bring that back up at some point.
They actually reached out with a meeting date.
Okay, good. So the traffic study, that, and I'm going to, Mr. Biecki, can I ask you a question since you're here? Driving by Giles, are there a lot of students that use bicycles?
Yes.
Do we have a bike rack there?
So we have about 4 or 5 bicycle racks there.
Okay.
Yeah. That are by entrance exit 8 by the softball field. They're over there. One of the concerns that I've been speaking with the Norwich Police Department is the Cullum and Oleander.
Yeah.
And so I've been working, trying to get an additional crossing guard hired. We're also having the Village of Norwich is writing a grant, and we're trying to get reflective markings on the crosswalks, so that individuals see that, it just stands out a little more. And the Village of Norwich is going to come and paint that street. All the markings, the crosswalk is going to be bright white, and the sides are going to be bright yellow. So the Village of Norwich is working on that. Hopefully, I think that might be done this weekend or next week. They had talked about.
Okay.
I talked with the deputy chief regarding that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a couple things that were brought to my attention, since the last meeting. So if we could follow up with Norwich PD on the alley issue here, this way I can get back to the resident and I can say that it was brought up in open forum here. We're going to reach out to the PD and we'll see how they can handle it with personnel or how they deem best. That's their specialty. So I just wanted to bring that up.
And I just want to say we have had a few different conversations about a few different issues with the traffic. And I know that, like this afternoon, there was an extra officer that was sent down further down the block to, to help with that.
When you say further down by Lawrence, down that way, going to the north?
I think it's actually down Giddings and west.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Great. Maria, do you have something?
Before this turns, I'm just thinking if it turns, so recall the house over here across the street that we had issues, people blocking the driveway, if you recall?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Sure.
So I know we put the little sign on their driveway that says no parking. I have seen it in the last 2 weeks where people are still parking, blocking their driveway, and the residents have been coming out and telling people you cannot park there. I don't know, maybe if they cannot, instead of putting it on their driveway, putting it on the street, the new residents there start complaining.
Let me ask for clarity. Is that our sign, and do we place it there? Does anybody know?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's our sign. I don't know who puts it out.
Who puts it
We
there?
don't have any street signs that we put out. We put out cones and barricades. We don't do anything with street signs.
It's like one of those.
Yeah,
it's
that's a barricade, then it's ours.
Then it's ours? Okay, because it says no parking on it. So I don't know.
No parking, private driveway.
No, they made themselves.
I don't know who made that. It's not ours?
I think it's not.
It's not, because they're in a bucket.
It's not the typical A-frame with the orange and the white stripe. This is one that it's always kept at that driveway, person's driveway, and it says, what does it say?
No parking.
Driveway, no parking.
So for all we know, Frank, that might be that resident's sign. They are maybe putting it themselves out there?
But I'm just saying, before it gets to what we had issues with 2 years ago, with the previous resident that living there, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen again.
Oh, I saw firsthand the new resident talking to
talking to people. So.
All right, so yeah, I don't know if Michelle reached out yet or not, but we're definitely gonna follow that up for next meeting. We'll follow up. Ralph, you'll have a report for us on that traffic study as to a date maybe, right?
Yeah, I have it.
Do you have the date already?
Yeah.
What is it?
I have to look.
Okay. Yeah, let me know on that. And then we'll definitely follow those up. Any other board comments?
Just, go ahead, sorry.
I just want to say, I think if one of the proposed solutions is blocking off that alleyway on both sides, residents all need to be notified, because some of the residents that come to me are trying to get into their own garage to put the groceries away, and they can't because all of our cars there. So if you block it off, then they still can't get into their garage.
So I think it's probably a combination of those two pieces, right? It's probably the traffic study that was done that we got to get back with Norwich. Ralph has the date. Inside that meeting, we'll have to bring up that there's some concerns from 8200 on Giddings as far as the alley. As far as restricting access, that's definitely going to be a village decision. And as far as emergency personnel and residents go, but yeah, I think they go hand in hand, right? They're going to go hand in hand. Chris?
Yeah, so I think there's an enormous revenue potential for all the bad parking or smart parking. I don't know if the village or if the police department is interested in posting somebody out there. I know they don't have the numbers that they probably could afford to put somebody out there just on ticket duty, or maybe you're an auxiliary officer. I don't know if any of that's been discussed. I feel like we got to figure out some options to deter behavior of the parents or, whatever, custodian or, parent or guardian, whatever, that's picking up and dropping off. I mean, some people, they just don't care. And it's been an issue for years. And I don't know if there's anything more that we can do working with the village, or maybe, you guys mentioned that you were invoicing the students' parents for the damaged things inside this school, is there something we can do on our end, like maybe give them an invoice for a parking ticket or something, I don't know what the jurisdiction is. I'm just shooting out ideas here. We can't do anything like that, huh?
No, right.
I'm willing to take this to the PD, but we're not gonna go out there and tell people to move their cars off private property or public property. We don't have the jurisdiction. I'm not gonna put these people in harm's way to do that.
Understood.
We'll certainly have that conversation.
I'm just throwing them out there.
I appreciate
Something's
it.
gotta be done.
I appreciate it, but we gotta be careful here.
Yeah, we'll get with the village and
we'll have a good conversation with them, no problem.
Yeah, everybody has the overall goal in mind, right? It's the safety of the students, and it's the safety of the people picking up their son or daughter. I mean, that's number one, is the safety, right? The traffic and the congestion, it's going to happen, and we try to minimize it as best we can. First and foremost is safety, and that's what our goal is. The resident who called me, I'm sure their concern is safety as well, but at the same time they live there, and they're having a hard time getting to their house, so that's something we got to bring up with the village. We will, on behalf of the district. All right, anything else from the board? I'm going to ask the board to consider a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees and review closed session minutes. Any discussion? Now I'll ask you for the motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the above mentioned appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees and review of closed session minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Chris, seconded by Frank. Roll call, please.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio? Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. It's 9:06. Note the time, 9:15 if that works for everybody.
Tiger territory.
Tiger territory. Thank you. We're now back in open session at 10:09 p.m. Personnel action items.
Hello.
I'd ask the board to consider the approval of the employment of Rhonda Orenstein. Forgive me if that's incorrect.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ralph. I know I made a mistake in a name pronunciation of last board meeting. District Special Ed Teacher, MA, Step 2, $52,035. Any discussion or questions? I'll ask for a motion to approve the employment of Rhonda Orenstein, District Special Ed Teacher, MA, Step 2, $52,035.
Second.
Molly, Louie, roll call.
Mrs. Deck? Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Monson? Mrs. Lala? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Motion carries. I ask the board to consider accepting the letter of resignation from Joe Vitale, lead maintenance, effective August 27, 2021. Any discussion, questions, comments? I'll ask for a motion to accept the letter of resignation from Joe Vitale, lead maintenance, effective August 27, 2021.
Motion.
Motion made by Lou, seconded by Chris. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Consider accepting the letter of resignation from Michelle Triantafilu, paraprofessional at Lee School, effective September 21, 2021. Discussion? Ask for a motion to accept the letter of resignation from Michelle Triantafilu, paraprofessional at Lee School, effective September 21 of 2021.
Motion.
Second.
Chris, Lou, roll call, please.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio? Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
That motion carries. Ask the board to consider the approval of a request for FMLA leave for Nick Barkan, social work, Lee School, up to 12 weeks. Discussion? Ask for a motion to approve the request for FMLA leave for Nick Barkan, social work, Lee School, up to 12 weeks.
Motion.
Second.
Lou, Chris, then Lou. Roll call, please.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck? Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Motion carries. And ask the board to consider the approval of the request for unpaid maternity leave for Anna Bartoczyk, ELL teacher at Lee School. Any discussion? I'll ask the board for a motion to approve the request for unpaid maternity leave for Anna Bartoczyk, ELL teacher at Lee School.
Second.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Lou. Roll call, please.
You can go.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yep.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
No.
Mr. Berardi?
No.
Mr. Palazzo?
No.
Mr. Trabuzio?
No.
Motion does not carry. Consider accepting the letter of resignation from Jenna Bartello, District Special Ed teacher, effective October 8th, 2021. Discussion. Motion to accept the letter of resignation for Jenna Bartello, District Special Ed teacher, effective October 8th, 2021.
A motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Consider the approval of employment of Colleen Bellinger, District Special Ed Paraprofessional. Discussion from anyone? Ask for a motion to approve the employment of Colleen Bellinger, District Special Ed Paraprofessional.
Second.
Molly, Chris, roll call, please.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
No.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Motion carries. Consider the approval of employment of William Lang, bus driver, for athletics transportation. Any discussion? I need a motion to approve the employment of William Lang, bus driver, specifically for athletics transportation.
Motion.
A second.
Chris, Renzo, roll call, please.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
No.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Motion carries. Board reflection time.
Yeah, I know, it's 5 Sure.
While you're filling that out, I want to let you know that we did receive an email from our residency investigator last year. And he did give us an estimate of hours worked and asked us to pay him for that, so we will process that as well.
Okay. Very good. All right, I'm just checking the time, 10:16. I need a motion to adjourn at 10:16 p.m.
Motion.
Chris, seconded by Molly. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now's the time. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.